3 memories best forgotten. Number 1. On the 4th morning of our Circle Tour bicycle trip in the summer of 1979, when Cora was 15 and Lucas 13, we awoke early to the sound of crows fighting over garbage outside. We each ate a banana, tried to force down 2 frosted Pop-Tarts, and were on the dew-covered road at 6:25 in the refreshing cool of early morning, heading north from Parksville. Everything was going smoothly until we came to a railroad crossing. Cora caught her tire and was sprawling face first onto the pavement. She got up holding her hands over her face, screaming that she broke her tooth. Wouldn't you know it, one front tooth broken completely off. I was very annoyed with myself because this was not our first railroad crossing, and I remembered thinking how important it was to cross those rails at a right angle. Brainless me, I never said anything to them. I may have been able to prevent that serious accident. To this day, I chastise myself. She bruised her knees, chin, cheekbone, and lip. 2 vehicles stopped. The first was a couple who produced some napkins to sop up the blood. They just alarmed us with comments about stitches, being in shock, and so on. The other was a forestry fellow who was on his way to work. This accident was so unfortunate. Lucas and I straightened out her bike. She got back on and rode 30 miles to the Courtney Motel. We stopped at a garage for her to wash up. It was an easy ride, yet I began to fall behind. I'm not sure if it was the new bike, the loaded saddlebags, or just me. My leg muscles were screaming for a rest. My back began to tighten in the shoulders, and we seemed to be going faster than ever. Those teenagers were finding a rhythm. That motel was a welcome sight. In time, we were able to say maybe the tooth could be fixed to be even better than it was before. Lucas said that his friend, Andrew, has a cap, and you can't even tell. The next day, we headed home. Cora went to the dentist and had her tooth repaired. She had it fixed another time when she knocked it off on the water fountain at school, and yet again as an adult. She still has noticeable scar tissue in her lip. Number 2, life is not always peaches and cream. When I owned my store Yarncraft from 1972 until 1984, I sold knitting machines. I learned how to use them and how to create a series of lessons for the purchasers. The understanding was that if you bought one, you would be taught how to use it. I developed several extremely enthusiastic knitters. It struck me that I should get them all together in order to exchange information and share what we all learned. I formed a knitting machine club. We met once a month at each other's homes and brought the patterns we followed in the projects we had produced. My wholesale supplier in Vancouver decided to organize a knitting machine seminar. The purpose was to teach new techniques, demonstrate the latest machines, and enable store owners like me to sell extensive quantities of yarn. With the machine, you can knit a sweater in a day, which means you will need more yarn the next day. I made plans to attend this seminar and take along a few of our club members. An entire arena was filled with interesting displays of knowledgeable teachers. We were motivated. The next week, back at home, one of our elderly knitters who had been visiting her family in Vancouver, yet attended the seminar, came into my store and casually asked me how the ladies were making out with their new machines. They had new machines? I was dumbfounded. She informed me that each of the ladies I took down to the event bought a new machine behind my back and asked her to bring them home. I was completely blindsided. I'd not even been given a chance to sell them new machines. That was the abrupt end of my participation in the Knitting Machine Club that I had formed. I was wounded in a section of my heart. What lessons did I learn? Money talks. It can cause deceitful behavior. Also, people you think are your friends may not be. For my own security, I needed to learn to keep people at arm's length. Number 3. Several years ago in September, Dave and I took a trip to the North Okanagan to visit our many relatives. The last stop was at my sister Wendy's in Enderby. They told us about 2 prune plum trees a couple of doors down the street that they had harvested for canning. The trees were right along the fence line, so overhung on the farmer's field next to the row of houses. That which is outside the house's property line is no longer theirs, right? We let them know that we loved prunes and we were totally into obtaining free fruit to take home. Dave and my brother-in-law Ernie had gone downtown to the shop where Ernie sometimes worked sharpening saw blades in this small farming community. Wendy found a couple of boxes, and along with the ladder, she and I went to pick the prune trees via the vacant, extensive farmer's field. The ground was covered in downed prunes. I had already learned that I liked prunes best when they were dead ripe and freshly fallen off the tree. Because of the time of the year, the ones on the trees were also ripe. Dave and Ernie returned to help. He told us that the house was occupied by a lazy, no-good, useless tenant. I even opened a gate and went into their yard, picking up the gorgeous bounty. Ernie was up the ladder picking when suddenly the door to the house opened and a man appeared on the sun deck. "Can I help you?" he asked. "No, thanks. We are doing fine," I replied, at which point Wendy said, "I think we will go home now." We picked up our full boxes and headed back to their house. When we got there, they informed us that they had never asked permission to take the fruit, and here I was in their yard, calmly helping myself. Dave decided we should jump in our car and get out of town while we still had air in our tires and before we heard any gunshots.